Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Vegan Spirituality Online Gathering. It's such a wonderful opportunity to be here together, people all across the country and in different parts of the world, to explore veganism as a spiritual practice. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Lisa Levinson, and I'm the director of the Sustainable Activism Campaign for In Defense of Animals, and we offer emotional and spiritual tools for animal activists so that we can continue in the movement for the long haul. For anyone who's interested in learning more about vegan spirituality, please visit our website, which is veganspirituality.com. We also have a page on Facebook, which is Vegan Spirituality Community. So you're welcome to join our community, and we do have groups that meet all across the country. If you go to the website, you'll find local groups, and you can even sign up to start one of your own if there isn't one in your area. So we really welcome you to join us so that we can explore veganism as a spiritual practice together. So here we are. We meet monthly for our online meeting, and this is our opportunity to connect across the miles, and we do interview various leaders in the vegan spiritual movement. So I'm going to turn it over to my co-host now, who's Judy Carmen. She's the author of Peace to All Beings, and she's going to introduce our special guest for today.
Hi, everybody. It's me. I hope I'm coming through okay. I'm so excited to be here tonight with Frank Hoffman, and so you all can get to know him. He is a retired business executive and a pilot and a church pastor. He's devoted many years of his life to ending the exploitation of animals. Together with his wife Mary, they founded the Mary T. and Frank L. Hoffman Family Foundation and the allcreatures.org website, which I really encourage you all to go to. It's a huge website with many other websites that they host on there. They founded that in 1997. And yeah, the other websites that are on there, like Christian Vegetarian Association and others, are wonderful and so you can see a lot right there. They have been, Mary and Frank have been vegan for more than 30 years. They are among the pioneers for sure. Frank also posts a sermon on his website, on the allcreatures.org website, and which I strongly encourage you all to watch and listen to. They're just great, and they are also posted on the Christian Vegetarian Association newsletters that you can sign up to receive. I'm going to quote Frank here. He explains, quote, "We are dedicated to cruelty-free living through a vegetarian vegan lifestyle according to Judeo-Christian ethics. Unconditional love, compassion, and empathy are the foundation principles of our peaceful means of accomplishing this goal for all of God's creatures, whether human or other animals." Vegetarian Summerfest, and it was just such a delight to get to know them. And it was just an amazing church service. So they've done so much for so many years. Let's talk to Frank and get to know you, Frank. Tell us how you and Mary learned about veganism, because there weren't that many vegans 30 years ago. So you were true pioneers in this movement. So how did you find out about it?
Well, when we first found out about the veganism, we didn't know what it was. We didn't know about veganism. We just came to the realization that it was wrong to eat animals. We came for reasons of compassion and empathy. And I think the key is the empathy. We felt the pain and suffering of the animals and said, we can't eat animals anymore. We have to stay away from them. And we began to, change our whole lifestyle. the interesting thing is it returned to God's original diet. And that was one of the things that we picked up on immediately. And of eating only a vegetarian diet. And we kept thinking about that. And Isaiah's prophecy of the peaceable kingdom, the fact that in Revelation chapter 4, you see that the animals are in heaven, even though they try to hide that in the English translations, it's there in the Greek. And we kept looking at this. And in the Hebrew, it says that both humans and animals were created as living souls. And so when we look at these kinds of things, we realize that we can't ignore it. And so it sort of backed up all of the reasons to be vegan, except it was, I think, several years after we became vegan that we found out about the term vegan. Nobody seemed to know about it in the beginning. They thought we were from the planet Vegas. It was pronounced vegan. People didn't really understand it. And today, look, 30 years later, or over 30 years later, it's mainstream. And we keep hearing about more. My attorney even told me today that one of his sons became vegan, and they have several vegetarians in the family now. So it's more and more people are beginning to catch on. So we were there when nobody knew about it, or some people did, because I know people have been vegan.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Oh, you want me to go on with that? Or
would you say that your veganism is an integral part? Oh, can everybody hear me? I was just asking if your veganism is an integral part of your Christianity, and I think you've touched on that for sure.
Yes.
More
yes,
about that. How do they work together?
Well, if you take a look, and because I'm a Christian pastor, if I take a look in the New Testament, which is the Greek Testament, you see that all of the things that Jesus talks about have to do with peaceful living in this world. If you look at the Beatitudes, and all the blessings that come with them, blessed for whatever it is, like blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. But all of them point to people being loving and compassionate and empathetic. And if we aren't to the whole of creation, then we seem to lose the blessings of God. And we sure know that things have changed in our lives that way. So that's there. The Lord's Prayer, which a lot of people know, the second part of it says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And in heaven, there's no pain, there's no mourning, there's no death. And Mary and I pretty much are in a constant state of mourning because we see all the cruelty in the world. So when we look at this, we're saying that is the empathetic way. It's like we feel God feels. He seems very sad about this. And I touched on, I think I mentioned about Isaiah's prophecy of the peaceable kingdom. Well, right after that, it says, when will this come about? When people return to God. It uses the term, the root of Jesse, but if you go back through the lineage, you come back to Noah, the son of God. So, I'm sorry, not Noah, Adam, the son of God. So when we get back to that point, we see that it does tie in. It's all part of having that spiritual base and doing no harm. And that brings in the Indian philosophy and a lot of the other things. And there really is no difference. When we have compassion, we protect the humans and the animals and the environment we live in. And that's what God calls us to be. That's the stewardship or the kingship that we're supposed to have. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
beautiful. Yes, thanks. Yeah, yeah, we're seeing more and more attempts to get the churches to wake up to to this call to be compassionate to all beings,
Yes.
and
Well,
there's
we've been.
some progress being made.
Yeah.
And we just posted on your website, your website, a vegan church.
You all there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. We just lost your picture, Judy. It was a minute. So you're back.
I was,
The thing.
I was, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
No, you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I was. Okay. Um, I was going to ask you about your website. It's so big and all so many groups on your website, and there's lots of resources there too.
Okay. Let me.
What is your vision for the website? Uh, Tell us more about it and about the resources there.
Okay. Um, One of the things that prompted us in the beginning to form the website was that we were not getting let's say, the reaction and the change and the movement that we were seeking in the churches. Uh, they just didn't respond. Uh, to give you an example, in the church, there were 23 families that had somebody that was seriously ill with a chronic disease that would have been curable with diet change. And George Molkmus, who many of the listeners on here may know, and he wrote a book called Why Christians Get Sick. And it was because of their diet. And we bought 24 of the books, kept one for ourselves, and gave 23 out to the families that had somebody that was chronically ill. And they got excited about the book. We'd see them underlining and highlighting words and phrases and things, but not one of the families changed. And as a result, the people stayed sick and some of them died. And, it just kept going on. We weren't solving the problem. And we kept looking at the fact that the internet was probably the better way to go. It was just coming into its heyday. People were starting to use it. And we decided that the place to be was on the internet. And we tried to reach out to people. And what we found is within a few months of going on the internet, we were getting more people viewing our website and looking at our sermons than we ever had in the churches. We were getting more, and children were writing into us and thanking us for telling them the truth because we were talking about what was happening to the animals. And part of that was on our website, part of the research. We have photo arrays and some videos up there that show exactly what's happening to animals in this world and the way they're mistreated and the way they're exploited. So that much is there. Uh, we've had a hard time getting into the churches from the hierarchy. Uh, we find there's a lot of hardness of heart there, and it's been a hard place to start. And we find that by working with grassroots people, the laity within the church, we've been able to do a lot better. Um, and just as the world is changing today, and it seems that we're getting closer and closer to that tipping point where things will change, where more and more people are becoming vegan, and more vegan products are on the market. And speaking of that, we have a huge recipe site on our website. And if you go on at all-creatures.org and look in the right column on the page, you'll see everything. You can get recipes with photos, recipes without them. And every recipe that we have up there has a photo in it of the what it looks like, at least what we've made. And not doctored up. They're just like we took them in our kitchen before we serve them. And so if you want them, they're there for free. There's no charge on our website. Everything's for free. And you can download whatever you want from there. So that's part of what we do. We also host about 40 different websites from around the world who are like-minded, and we host them free of charge. We don't charge anything, even if we publish for them. That's all part of our service. That's what we do as a mission. So we keep trying to reach out to people in any way we can. We use nature studies as a way of reaching people. We have pictures, like here at Sleepy Hollow, where we live. We have cataloged somewhere in excess of 125 wildflowers. And we have a whole series of pictures of each of the wildflowers. We photographed the deer and fox and two families of foxes, a red and a gray fox. And you see the character, the way they play, and you can see the soul and spirit. I just said at Summerfest, where we just came from, we have a video of a moose playing in a mud puddle, and the moose is having a great time splashing the water, just like we've watched little kids run and jump in a puddle to make big splashes. So there really isn't any difference. Since we don't smell like a carnivore, we found that we can get a lot closer. And we find ourselves talking with deer, they don't run away. If we run towards them or make fast movements, they get startled. But otherwise, they're right there. I've had a fawn run right up to me, actually right between my legs. I stooped down, and then I pointed my arm towards Mama, and she never got upset. And the fawn went over to her. But it's one of the things that tells us that God's in control, and all we have to do is mold ourselves into what God wants us to be, and we can make a difference in this world, in anything. We can end our warring madness. We can end the fighting and fuming that we have between people. We have so much in common. And I used to do prison ministry, and in the prisons you have people from all denominations and all ways, and if you treat them as equals, you find that you get through. We even had the Muslim imam send some of his parishioners to the class that we were teaching in Old Testament, because he knew that we weren't trying to proselytize them, but that we were telling them some of God's original things in the creation, and in the way life began and the way things deteriorated. And they were very interested. And the only thing that we asked is that you don't fight with people or argue doctrinal issues. And I pastored a church that was a combination of Methodist and Baptist, which is, if you look at the doctrinal differences there, people say, how can they be together? Well, we got along very well. So it's a matter of loving and having an empathy for the whole of God's creation. And when you do, you feel their pain and suffering. You feel what they want. You feel what they like and what they don't like. And you reach out to them. That's how we make a difference. Every one of us can do it. There's something else I'm not
Beautiful.
hearing
Thank
anything.
you. Thank you so much, Frank. That's such a wonderful description of your work and your website and how the animals come together when we are peaceful.
Mhm. Absolutely. I don't think we're hearing Judy anymore.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just talk about something
Yeah.
else?
Actually, yes, sorry, I'm hearing myself twice at the moment. So, um, anyway,
But
so
it's not
yes,
broadcasting. You're coming across
yes.
very nice.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you so much. Thank you. Well, anyway, it's such a delight to have you here, and I want people to realize that you are in you've been doing this for so long, and I think that's what's so remarkable, and that people may not realize that you've been at this for many, many years. And I
Yes.
think it would be interesting to hear a little bit about anything that you've noticed over time in the community.
Um, if we take the world as a community rather than just my neighborhood, um, I think the thing that maybe goes, the prophet is not welcome in his own land, may be part of the problem. Uh, you sort of have to go out. We find we get much more following from around the world than we do necessarily in our own backyard. Um, uh, People, I don't know, it's hard to get through sometimes even to members of our family, and maybe that's the hardest. Occasionally, some people do make a change there, but others don't. And we were never able to change our families, although they recognized us and supported us. It wasn't for them, so to speak. Uh, but we find that we there are animal right vegans in every religion of this world. Um, I'm not going to say every splinter religion or whatever, but every one that we've encountered, we have found vegan animal rights people. And to us, that is the sign that this is the way we're supposed to be. And that commonality ties us together. And it's that kind of relationship that's going to change this world because it's if we want to find something to fight about, that's easy. We just look at the way the world is, and we can always find something to fight about. I mean, look how messed up the U.S. government is, and everybody's sitting around fighting with each other, and they're accomplishing very little. I looked at an interview today that they were doing in a combined committee meeting, and they were fighting among themselves, arguing over things instead of trying to accomplish something jointly. Um, we find that with in the animal rights movement, there's a lot of friction. But in the among vegans, I don't see quite as much. There is some arguing, but when we find in the spiritual side, when we're dealing with Christians and Jews who are vegan animal rights people, there's no disharmony. It doesn't matter what religion we're in. We find among ourselves a loving, cooperative way of meeting each other where we're at. I mean, we may disagree over certain points, but those disagreements are things that we're discussing. It's not, we're working to find what will best save this earth, whether it's for environmental reasons or the animals or whatever it is. And I think they're all combined together. I don't think there's any difference. Uh, we've used recipes, showing, feeding people, letting them taste different things. Um, and, people expect things to be different or expensive. And on our recipe page, we have food costs. We update every 6 months. And what we do there is we put in that our average food cost is a little over $5 per person per day. And we eat all kinds of fancy stuff. I mean, look what the price of nuts is today, and dates and figs and pomegranates and whatever else you're going to buy. Some of that stuff's expensive. And even including those, we don't have a problem bringing our food cost in at a little over $5 a day. Well, in most cases, I mean, New York State is fairly high in food costs, but if you look, it's lower than the food stamp value. So it's not expensive to become vegan. It's just having the heart to do it. And we eat a whole vegan diet. We don't eat uh, the things that people do that cause these problems. And I hope you can still hear me. I just saw a flash come up on the screen, so I don't know if you lost me then or not, too.
No, we can hear you just fine, and we can see you fine too. Thank you, Frank.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I have a question for you. I'm wondering.
Lisa, can you hear me?
Oh,
Can you
right
hear
now
me,
we can.
Lisa?
Now we can.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Because I was going to ask, because you mentioned grief, and that you're in grief all the time, as we all are, when we hear, a new thing every day almost that's going on to animals that we can't even imagine how anyone could do those things. But how do you and Mary cope with the grief? Because that's a big thing that we deal with in vegan spirituality, is finding our inner joy and coping with that grief at the same time. So,
Well,
give us your wisdom on this.
okay. One of the things is we don't dwell on the horror that we see. We look to what we can do to end it. So we're always looking to the future. Uh, if people don't listen, that's their problem. It's not ours. And we look to try to make a difference in this world. And the very fact that we keep doing it and we see the reactions of the people that listen, that brings the joy. And today, 30 some years later, after we started on this vegan animal rights spiritual movement and trying to reach the world, we thought that it was going to be as difficult as it was in the beginning. But as we move up along the timeline, we find that it's becoming easier and easier and easier. And we see more and more response. And that's the joy. When we were first vegan, we didn't even know what it was called, and nobody else did. And it was hard even to get a plant-based diet in a restaurant. Today you walk in and you say, we eat vegan, or we are vegans, and they know what kind of food we're going to eat. So it's that much alone brings a joy to our heart. Though we do most of our own cooking because we eat a whole food diet, and a lot of people in restaurants put too much salt and oil and sugar and other things in their food. But we find that where we are, things work out very nicely. And I enjoy cooking for other people and whatever is happening. And I spoil Mary because we're cooking gourmet meals all the time, and she sort of likes that. And she says, "I'd rather have you cook than going out sometimes." So there's a joy in it, and we make different things. And, it's nice. We live on a lake, so we can take a canoe out. We can do different things. It's communing with nature. There's deer around the property, rabbits, squirrels, and they run across our deck, and chipmunks, and they're all here. We watch the squirrel finishing off all of the mulberries on the tree. They scramble all of it between the squirrels and the birds. as Mary says, they're stealing all my berries. So, and she goes out when she can and grabs what she can, and then the animals come in and it's their food. So we just laugh about it. So, and the geese on the lake and, whatever. So all of this brings joy to our heart. And yes, when we see all the horror, it bothers us. And we know what's going on around us. And that's sort of it. We've learned to take the anger part of mourning and change it into action. Um, it doesn't pay to get angry and fight with somebody. It if you it, if you're angry and you say, okay, what can I do to make a difference, and you start working on the difference, then you don't have that anger anymore, because that energy that's going into anger is now going into a positive movement, whatever it is. And there's always a way to do it. As you can tell from me talking here, I happen to enjoy talking to people. But I rarely like, we'll have people that want to argue Bible verses with us. And I tell people, don't argue Bible verses, because the other person has their agenda and we end up trading verses and getting nowhere. So if that's all they want to do, they're the wrong people to talk to. But if we talk about the love and the peace and living in the heavenly will of God, then we have an approach to take, and we can show them the same things they're trying to question. And the funny thing is, rarely we don't. In the beginning, everybody was saying, "Where do you get your protein?" And we were tired of saying, "Look at where do you think elephants and cows get their protein?" And they're pretty big. And so, but as we keep going this way, we begin to see that people are beginning to understand, and they don't ask the same questions all the time. And more people accept who you are. Yes, you lose some people that you had as acquaintances, and you gain others. Some of the things I wish they listened to was the health side. My brother says that I'm the healthiest one in the family, and I'm 12 years his senior. And, when you look around at other people, you're saying, okay, you can make a difference. So that's how, that gets us above the mourning. And I think mourning, a great deal of it is really feeling sorry for ourselves, because it's how we feel. How we feel about the loss. That's what mourning does. So if we get out of that feeling, if we start to do something and get away from ourselves, I think you overcome that. And I think most of us have heard people who have suffered a loss will say, I have to work. It makes me feel better, because they're getting away from just feeling the pain in their own heart and soul. And so I think what we're doing, the outreach that we do, takes us away from that. But when we stop and realize what's happening, it's in a constant state of mourning. So basically, I hope that's answering your question. Is it?
Yes, that is.
Okay.
Thank you
Yes,
so
thanks,
much.
Frank. Yeah, and I think we all. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear both of you. Sometimes, Judy, you cut out, but I can hear
Oh, you
you.
can? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah, I think that there are a lot of that's because all deal with that. And all have losses in our lives, lost parent. And you're right, you have to go forward. And a big part of what you're saying is, okay, this is a situation that all these animals are dying and suffering, but we have to go forward and make a difference. And we can do that, and that empowers us to rise above the grief. So thank you for that. I encourage everybody to read your sermons. And where is the best place to see those? How do they see those? Do they go to your website?
Yes.
And is there a specific place where they can find your sermon?
Yes. If you look under Church and Religion, you'll see in the right column, and you just click on that, and there's a section for sermons, and you just look in there, and there's probably over 1,000 of them now, original sermons. So you can go there to look at them. They're also in our All-Creatures e-newsletter, which comes out weekly. Nita Stram puts that together for us, and we send it out. We sent that out yesterday, and we send them out usually every Wednesday. It's dated for Thursday, but we send them out usually in the afternoon on Eastern time, on the afternoon on Wednesdays. So that's there. They can look at them there. And the sermon is in our newsletter. It's also in the Christian Vegetarian newsletter. So it's around, and we also put it up on Facebook, and we have some news groups that we send it out to. So it's around.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Frank, for sharing how we can access all of these.
That's
wonderful.
Glad to do it. That's what we're here for.
So we're going to move into the next segment of the interview, which is the question and answer.
I was just going to say,
So I think, Judy, we're having some trouble hearing you, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. So I wanted to find out if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask Pastor Frank Hoffman. And you can either chat, if you're on the webinar with us, you can type them into the chat box. If you are with us on a Facebook Live, then you're welcome to chat them in next to the live feed there, and we'll do our best to answer them. Also, if you're on the phone with us, you can press *4 and unmute yourself if you'd like to ask questions. So just wanted to give you an opportunity to interview Pastor Frank yourself by asking a couple of questions. So we really invite you to do that if you'd like to. And I'm going to check with the Facebook to see if we have anybody has a question for Frank right now. Let's see.
I see 16 chats up there already.
Yes. We do have lots of chats. And let me check back to see if anyone has a specific question. And I don't see anything right at the moment. So perhaps if there's any questions that you generally get when people ask you, or if you go and speak in front of groups, what sort of questions do you typically get? Maybe you can answer a couple of them here for us.
Well, usually people are asking something about what people say to them, things about eating animals or not eating animals, and they'll mention they're vegan. You mean you don't eat milk or eggs or fish? We say, no, we don't eat any animal products. We don't use animal products. We don't wear animals. So it's that's some of the questions we get. And it's just a matter of just being polite, being loving, and don't get upset with them because it if you think about it, it shows a lack of understanding. So when people just begin to talk, uh, you just respond and take them where they're at. And if they get really argumentative and they already have a position, I'll try to change the subject. If that doesn't work, I'll just try to cut it off. But generally, uh, people want to know an answer. Most of the people that ask questions, a lot of it has to do with health. We'll get a lot of questions on health, and I'm not a doctor, so I have to say to them what I usually do and where I get my information from, and I just pass it on and just you know give them that caveat with it that it's I'm not a doctor and you have to make up your own minds or contact some of the doctors that are on our list in our health section, and you'll get the same answers or similar answers. So
Well,
that's part of it.
thank you, Pastor Frank, for answering that
It's
common
just
question.
Frank.
Just Frank,
Just
just
call me
Frank.
Frank.
Okay, so we do have a question, one question, a couple questions I'm going to read through to you. One of them is a mention actually by Judy, who says that your recent sermon about listening to animals was so good. Can you tell us some of the highlights?
Well, to listen to animals is to understand where they're coming from. Uh, they don't expect them to answer you in English or whatever language you speak, but uh, they will respond. Uh, we've all seen a dog or a cat when you're talking to them or something. They'll tilt their head to the side. Uh, that usually means they don't understand. And I've seen humans do the same thing. So I think God's instilled in us that kind of reaction. What's going on? So they tilt their head. Uh, there's um, there's a forgiveness with animals that we have found. You can be mean or cross with an animal, and they don't hold the grudge like humans do. They they mellow. So what you're doing is you're reading the way we should be, so we can learn from the animal. Uh, if you look at a wild animal, and it helps if you're vegan because you don't smell like a carnivore. So if, like for an example, with a deer, uh, I'll say good morning to them, and they'll stop and look back at me because I'll come out of the house and they're right there or something, and uh, or we'll see them on the road and we'll stop and talk to them, and they'll stand right there, and you can talk to them for a while, and they sort of listen, and but I don't know what they understand or what they don't, but you can see a response. Uh, if you've ever watched animals playing, whether it's a companion animal, cats or dogs or rabbits, or you're looking at wild animals. Um, we have a bunch of pictures on the site of baby fox and the way they played and run around and do different things. Uh, you can see that same thing. There's no real difference between them and humans. So it's a way of seeing that God created us all as the same living souls, same living beings. We're very similar in our reactions. So those kind of things make the difference when we begin to observe them. And basically, that's what we were talking about. And we went into some other different things, the playing of games. I even mentioned one in the sermon about uh, an undercover video we have of a young man who kicked a cow in the face because she wouldn't respond to him the way he wanted her to. And all she did was look at him with an expression like, "Why did you do that?" And she recoiled at the pain. but he responded by kicking her again. And uh, she still didn't retaliate. It was just, why are you doing this? You could see that same look on her face. And it's not hard to read that if we open our hearts and minds to receive it. And I don't, whether it's a wild animal. I have a picture of a wild gray fox. And if you look at her face, she looks like one of our companion animals. He has, and I was maybe 15 feet away from her. And she was concerned that I was taking pictures of her babies. And I said, Mama, I'm not going to hurt your babies. I just was enjoying them. You have a beautiful family. And I'm talking to her. And here's this wild fox 15 feet away from me. So we can do these kinds of things if we really want to. Meet them where they're at.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing the details of that recent sermon that you did. And I have a question here from Paula, who's asking, in Rin Berry's book, Food for the Gods, which Vegetarians and World Religions, in the Christianity chapter, he says that Jesus was essentially crucified for his position against animal sacrifice and slaughter. Does that sound right to you? And if it is true, so many Christians need to know that.
Well, I think it had a lot to do with it. I think there were other factors involved. But Jesus took a stand against sacrifice. And I think, and sacrifice was like challenging the slaughterhouses in the country today, because the temple was pretty much a slaughterhouse, and they were making money with it. And he got very upset with that, because they were making a mockery of, as he said, my Father's house, a house of prayer, and you turned it into a business. So that part of it is part of that. But the other thing is, he kept challenging. If you read in the Bible, you see that the only people he ever got upset with were the clergy. And he got upset with them, and he would call them hypocrites and things like that, because they should have known better. Because they knew what the Bible said, but because of, let's say, their peer pressure, and I'll leave it at that. I don't think it was individual. I think it was all group, that they wouldn't listen. And I think we find people like that, when we talk about animal rights and veganism. It's like, they're this master mason, and they lay up the brick wall between us real quick, because they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear the truth. And I think that's what the kids years ago used to do. Because they saw we were telling the truth and they were hearing it wrong. And so they responded, because we showed them the truth. We didn't just tell them what the truth was. We showed them what was happening on factory farms and slaughterhouses. And they understood what was going on. They suspected it, but nobody would tell them the truth. We told them about dairy cows and the suffering, and that a dairy cow will generally live 25 years, and the average life of a dairy cow is maybe 5 years or maybe less. So, and we talk about the stealing of the babies. So that was, that's part of what's happening today. And I think what Rin was picking up on was part of that in his book. And I know Rin, or I knew him. And we have talked about some of these things over the years. But I approach things maybe a little differently than he did. But the fact of challenging the hierarchy was part of it. The Bible also brings in that it was his destiny. I look at it a little differently. I think that if we didn't disobey God, it wasn't necessary for him to come and do what he did. So it really comes back to our lack of responding to God and what he wants us to do. So there's more to it than that. But I think that they wanted to kill him because of the challenge. It was known all along, and they finally found a way to do it. Most people who try to scapegoat somebody are really cowardly.
Yeah. And we do have another question. It sounds like there's a lot of activity in our chat box around the question you just answered. And I know that Keith Ackers, someone mentioned, Jack mentioned, that in The Lost Religion of Jesus, Keith Ackers agrees with Ryan Berry and tries to show that Jesus was vegetarian. And we've had actually Keith Ackers as a guest on this program, and he did share that position with us.
Yes, and we've also talked about it. Okay. I don't think you can't prove veganism, but you can prove that he didn't eat any animals. But there's nothing said about cheese, which was the way to preserve milk in those days. They made cheese out of it because it was the only thing that would hold up, because milk would spoil very quickly because there was no refrigeration. So we're not told about that. We're also told that they eat honey, and the Jewish tradition is that honey, the word that was used originally in the Hebrew, also referred to date syrup. So that it may not actually be bees' honey. It may be, and that would be a vegan product. But generally speaking, it's very difficult to prove it by the Bible. And Keith uses extra biblical references, and we try, because we're working in mainstream, we try to keep it with the mainstream and the way they look, and we'd use their references. But when you look at the compassion side, the empathy, you automatically turn to that. You would have to be at least a vegetarian. You couldn't be anything else. But in those days, they didn't do to the cows what we do today, and they also milk goats. But they treated them fairly well compared to what was happening, because it was their livelihood, and they weren't looking at it from the standpoint of not caring for them. And Jesus shows us all through the Bible that he cares for the animals. So I don't disagree. In my heart, I'd say, yep, he was. I agree with Keith. But and he may even be listening. But from the standpoint of where the references come from, we sort of differ a little bit, but we're coming to the same point. I happen to believe that Jesus was a vegetarian as well.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. And we do have a comment here. It says that those of us who have worked with animal communicators know how aware and sentient non-humans are, including insects. And there was a time when humans and animals could communicate, but most of us have lost that sensitivity and also the ability. And a horse told one that animals are sad because humans have forgotten that they have souls. So I think that the intention here was to express that a horse communicated to this person that animals are sad because humans have forgotten that the animals have souls.
Could very well be.
Yeah.
I think God is sad the same way, because he created us with its living souls. So, and there was no difference between the way he created the animals, even though the Bible tries to hide it by calling animals creatures. But when you look at it in the Hebrew, it's nefesh hayah, which is the same word.
Wow. Wow, that's so interesting. Thank you so much, Frank, for sharing your views and also the details of a little bit more about Jesus and his life. And that's part of why we're gathered here together, is to really get more information and share that with one another. I really appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge and your spiritual presence with us today. It's been so interesting to hear your stories about the animals, and I'm wondering if you might be willing to share a closing prayer or intention or comment with us today.
Okay. Father, we ask you to touch our hearts and our souls and guide us and direct us in all things, Lord, that we can be of service to you to help free your creation, humans and animals and the environment, from its present corruption. And Lord, if the people that we talk to and we present this way of life to are hard of heart and they won't listen, then please come now, bring an end to this suffering once and for all. Amen.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Frank. It's been such a delight to have you with us today, and that prayer is such a beautiful way to close our meeting today. And I want to thank everyone who's joined us from wherever you're from, whether you're online watching or on the phone or any other way that you're tuning into us. And just know that we do these interviews every month, so you can join us, and you can find out more about that on our events page, idausa.org/events, or you could go to veganspirituality.com, and on the events tab, you can find a little bit more about this gathering if you're joining us online and want to get a regular reminder about our monthly meetings. So thanks to everyone for joining us, and thanks to Judy, who has really helped us out with our interview, although she's having some technical issues today, but we do know that she's here with us in spirit. And again, Frank, this is such an honor to have you on our program. I know how many years you've been out there advocating for animals, and I really admire you so much. So thank you very much for being part of our show today.
It's been my pleasure.
Well, thank you, and thanks to everyone. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And we're getting lots of people in the chat box saying, thank you so much, Frank. Thank you. Thank you. So I know it's a lot of gratitude being expressed right now online and on telephone lines and all over. So please receive that. And for everyone else, have a wonderful evening. Take care. Good night, everyone.
Good night.